Well, we'll start out tonight by taking a look at the big picture. And if you recall from the last heads up, there are two weather systems here, one tonight, another one on Wednesday. The one tonight has always been the weaker one. We'll take a look at that in greater detail. The one midweek, Wednesday, is stronger. And as I pointed out last time, there's been a shift, first, especially for the stronger one, for more warm air to try to get entrained into this system, pushing all the ice and snow a little bit more out of the Ozarks, but probably not completely out. And we'll take a look at all these options here in a minute. First of all, let me reset this back to the beginning here. There we go. And we're looking at 500 millibar and vorticity, the areas of shading or the vorticity. It's a way of finding trouble. Spinning areas in the atmosphere, little short waves, which can, out ahead of them, induce rising motion, precipitation, that sort of thing. So we'll take a look at this here and just kind of tick through the time here. And this right here is Tuesday at about noon. So what's happening here is you have this kind of a shear zone right here. All these little spinning areas right here are trying to lift, but they're not usually very effective at doing a broad scale job of that. But they can, but this is a weaker weather system. So it's going to move up into southern Missouri and then get pushed out pretty quick. And I'll show you how the models are handling that here in a second. I'm sure you've already noticed, though, that there's a much larger scale system out here. And that's the one we want to take a look at. And there's all kinds of interesting little features, too, like that one is merging into it, that little short wave. There's one here in southern Canada, too. So this is one of the things that meteorologists look at to try to figure out how these are all going to mesh together. So as we move this forward now, this is the more potent one that moves into the plains. This is, let's see, let's go to Wednesday morning. That's Wednesday at about 6 a.m. So again, it's clear to see that this one has a lot more going for it. This is a larger system, so it's going to produce a lot of widespread snow, some freezing rain, and a lot of rain, too, quite frankly. But those areas will be from Springfield on south, and especially southeast of us later in the week. In fact, parts of Tennessee, Kentucky, northern Georgia, northern Alabama, 7 inches of rain are possible in those areas, by the way. So this, again, has all winter precipitation, Springfield on north and northwest. And if I'm trying to find trouble at all, there's another weather system coming in here. This one will be dry here. In fact, high pressure builds in on Friday right behind this system. Then we have that other one coming ashore in California, which I was watching with great interest a couple of days ago. This one appears to want to behave itself in terms of winter precipitation for us, and I think that this one will actually probably stay all rain in the area for us, maybe a backlash of winter precipitation. Well, all right, let's just look at this real quick. We have a winter weather advisory. That area is shaded in purple. It does include Springfield, the surrounding area, not so far north of us, really, but stretching east quite a bit, and I'll show you why in a minute. Some of that is going to be light freezing drizzle and maybe even some light freezing rain. With that, I think a little bit more likely off to the east. And then the other ones, the winter storm warning and the winter storm watch, and also the advisory south of that in Kansas there, that is for Wednesday's weather system, and that may need some tweaking too as we start to approach that day. But as of right now, those are the watches and warnings that are in effect for our area. Well, our first stop here is to take a look at the HRRR model. This is a high-resolution computer model, which will serve us very well. We can zoom in on Missouri and northern Arkansas now. This is precipitation type. It gives you a good idea of timing and precipitation type, and I happen to agree with what I'm seeing here. There's been a tendency, as I stated in the last heads up, to warm, quote-unquote, this entire two-system event. Tonight's is a lot less intense than the next one. But let's take a look at how this unfolds here. First of all, this initialized at noon today, so we'll kind of move forward here. Let's get up to about 6 p.m. here, right when this video is just about to be, we'll probably release it a little bit before 6. And you can see a little bit of light rain breaking out, because even though it is chilly today, it is still, the atmosphere is still conducive for precipitation being rain. Now, if we kind of look here, it kicks up a little bit by 9 p.m., 10 p.m., 11 p.m., still mostly liquid. Now, right in through here, we're starting to see east of Springfield a little bit of freezing rain. That's this purple color right here. And that is really why that winter weather advisory was drawn the way it was, to kind of account for the fact that some of the colder air is off to our east, And also it has a lot to do with, since freezing rain is really all about surface temperature, this is strongly biased by what happens exactly at the surface. So you know how surface temperature works. You can have hills and valleys, elevation differences, all that is coming into play here. So that's certainly what's happening. And as we advance this forward a little bit more, you'll still see the areas of purple showing up here, now also capped off with blue, which is the snow. Almost all of this most intense precipitation is east of Springfield, and I do happen to agree with that, actually. So we're looking at that freezing rain probably accumulating to less than 1/10 of an inch. I just don't think it's going to get much more out of hand than that. So if it does, they would issue an ice warning or a winter storm warning. As it is now, it's just a winter weather advisory. So it just means if you're traveling, cool it. Take it easy if you're going out, especially east of Springfield. And this is 4 a.m., 5 a.m., 6 a.m. So most of it's moving out into the extreme southeast part of the state. Kind of a resurgence there, but by lunch tomorrow, it's pretty much gone. So that's good. So that was that first wave that we've been talking about. Not as intense. And it's focusing its trouble, I guess you could say, more to the east, even though we could have a little bit of light freezing drizzle or rain here in Springfield. That's not out of the question. Then we kind of advance here. This is now Tuesday at 8 o'clock in the evening. Now you're starting to see a few bands of snow showing up overnight Tuesday. Here, this is midnight Tuesday, right in through here. And this is when the next storm starts developing. And 5 a.m., 6 a.m. right here. So again, the tendency has been for this storm to wrap around slightly warmer air from this direction. So the low pressure center is down here. So that's what's starting to happen. And that is what's taking the ice line and moving it northwest. It's what's taking the snow and moving it a little more northwest and keeping a lot of rain in the forecast for Springfield. Now this is going to stop about noon on Wednesday, because this model only goes out 48 hours at this particular hour. But this is 10 a.m. There's 11 a.m. So again, we have this just band of ice that's kind of forming, very thin. That suggests maybe that the structure of this storm is more vertical instead of like this. So we're not getting a large area of warm air above sub-freezing temperatures, just a very narrow area. So that's good for ice potential. And then this is all, of course, snow up here. And that is where the winter storm warning that we started the graphics with here today is issued for. So that's one model's idea of what's going to happen. So we'll stop this one and take a look at, let's say, the North American model and see what kind of differences it has in store for the Ozarks. Now this is the NAM model, same type of map, a precipitation type map along with isobars. The NAM model, the North American model, it actually runs out 84 hours. We only needed to go through late on Wednesday, but the other model had to stop at noon Tuesday, so I want to see what happens. And there are some differences, especially with regarding the ice on Wednesday, so that's important to take a look at this to try to assess what's going on. But again, this starts at the same time. Let's move forward here. And right in through here, this is, well, let's see, let's go back. This is 3-hour increments. So here's midnight. It's a little bit more aggressive on where this freezing rain sets up just south of Springfield. If you recall, this was more to the east with the high-resolution model. So hence the winter weather advisory issued appropriately, because there are differences in the models that we have to take into account, and none of them they're all lying to you at some point, but none of them are perfect. But that's one consideration here, and we'll go forward here and see that it does in fact exit the area. So by 6 a.m. right there, that's the timing on this is about the same. The only difference between that and the high resolution model is it's a slightly larger and more westwardly displaced ice area. It doesn't last very long. It all happens in the overnight hours, so for decision makers, that's not fun. You really you wake up to it basically. So now let's keep going here, and this is interesting. This actually puts a little secondary snow blitz right there. I find that kind of interesting. Tomorrow afternoon, that was actually showing up a couple days ago too. There might be some truth to that. And then we start going in through here. This is midnight on going from Tuesday to Wednesday. Snow breaking out in Kansas City. And then we get to 6 a.m. on Wednesday morning. We have rain and snow and a little bit of freezing precipitation. Now, this is where we have a pretty significant departure. This is a pretty large area of freezing rain. And this happens sometimes, if I would just want to show you here. So this entire zone right here is where there's a low pressure area right there. Okay, so there's warmer air trying to overcome and wrapping around this low. But this area right here, though, is an area where the cold air is still hanging on. I guess that's a good way to put it. Even though the warm air is wrapping around the low, it's actually shunted back to the west a little bit, so it doesn't actually get up into those areas. So that's a pretty larger freezing rain area. This is again 9 a.m. Here's noon. It's moving pretty quick, so it puts Rolla, St. Louis increasingly under the gun. We're getting some dry slotted air right here in this portion of the world, and you saw the snows, of course, are going on. I mean, if you didn't, we'll go back. There's a pretty good snow. Clinton, Kansas City, maybe as far southeast as Parsons in Kansas. Columbia certainly under the heavy snow band. Quincy, north of St. Louis, they appear to be in the ice zone. And then the 3 o'clock on Wednesday, that's what it looks like, with some backlash snows still occurring through northern central Missouri and through parts of Kansas. That may get down as far as Springfield on Wednesday at 6 p.m. before it leaves the area. And if I keep going down the road here, I'm just looking for other trouble. Don't see anything. High pressure kind of controls the area, as you can see, centered right over Missouri. That's 9 p.m. on Friday. So it does calm down after these two storm events. Well, all right, here are the different models and how they're looking at snowfall. This is the rapid refresh. We're looking at 6-inch totals around Kansas City. You see that band in southeast Missouri, too, going over to around Cape Girardeau. So that's one model. And now we're looking at the NAM model, and this one is a lot more aggressive with the snow just north of Springfield and around Kansas City, and especially over to Topeka, a lot more. And this is the freezing rain look here, and this is the more aggressive model. This is the NAM, and it's showing Springfield with only 0.5 of an inch of freezing rain, but Rolla and St. Louis a lot more, half-inch. And then this is that storm on Saturday I was talking about. So there's low pressure in Oklahoma, and I just wanted to show this to you to show that the snows on that one, at least from this distance, look to be up in Iowa, Chicago, Michigan, northern Indiana, and Ohio. That map is valid on Saturday. So stay safe out there. Again, the storm of more concern, the first one tonight is more to the east of Springfield, but watch everywhere. And then the one on Wednesday, one model is bringing the snow a lot closer to Springfield. So I'll bring you another update to this video here probably tomorrow.